Hey guys, you are listening to Kick It, Don't Quit It, a motivational spiritual podcast seeking to spread love and grace. We're so thankful you have tuned in. Come kick it with the girls, just don't quit on the world.
Hey guys, it's three women back again. Kick It, Don't Quit It. Here with you. This is Erin. We've got Megan.
Hi.
You know she's not going to be that quiet. And Sister Holly.
Hello.
And we are back for our 5th episode. As you guys know from previous, I'm the one who listens to all the podcasts, and I've been listening to ours. And feeling really excited and really happy with the way that it's coming out. I hope you guys are feeling the same. So as we start, I have a couple of things I want to talk about before we get into our actual episode. Around our church, I am known as the pastor appreciation person. I'm the one who takes care of our pastor appreciation in October, and I'm assuming, it is an assumption, but I'm assuming that most of the people who are listening to this are involved in a church somewhere. If you're not, I definitely would make the case for getting yourself involved in a church somewhere, being a part of a place, getting to know the people and becoming just a churchgoer, I guess. But when I was growing up, as you guys know from previous, my dad was a pastor, and so when October would come around and we would do our pastor, they do the pastor appreciation. It was one Sunday at the end of October that they took to appreciate my dad, and that's great. My dad it always was kind of a surprise to him. He forgot that it happened every year, and we felt appreciated. But as I grew up, I went to a different church, and then they would do something every week, the week of October, for the pastor, and that made such of an impression on me because we should really just appreciate our pastor all year round. But if we're going to give them a month, then we should give them a month. So my PSA is that if you have not made plans, because this will come out just before the 1st of October, if you have not made plans to appreciate your pastor all month long, please do so. We do a pounding, not like we hit him, but each week we have something different, some different section of the house that we bring in the things that they enjoy, the things they like. So we do a kitchen pounding where we do cleaning supplies and spices and cans of food, soups and things like that they really like. Then we do a stock the laundry, where we do their laundry detergent, softener, dryer sheets, that kind of thing. And then we do the bathroom, where we the toilet paper that they like, the shampoo, the razors, the deodorant, that kind of thing. And it is one of my pastor's wife's favorite times of year. She absolutely loves October, looks forward to October. And she normally tells me, she said, we're just about to run out of stuff, so it's good that it's October again. But she just loves it, and it's a way for our church to just give back to our pastors, and it's stuff that they use all year long. So every time they pull out a new thing of paper towels or a new thing of laundry detergent or whatever, they're reminded of how much the church loves them and appreciates them. So that is what I just wanted to kind of put out there to begin with, to let you guys know it is so important to show our leaders how much we love and appreciate them. So after that, today the topic that we had talked about was vessels of victory and what it means to be victorious. And so there are times in our lives where we don't feel victorious, where we don't, where we're kind of in the valley. But even in the valley, we know the victor. We know who holds our future. I wrote, when I knew that we were doing this topic, I wrote this. So I'm just going to read it and we'll go from there. It says, recently, my husband and I had a moment that we refer to in our Sunday school class as an intense moment of fellowship. We both said some things out of frustration that hurt and caused some open wounds. We have communicated since and things are better, but if I'm honest, and that is what we want to be on this podcast, in the words of Michael Todd, we are a hot podcast, humble, open, and transparent. To be open and transparent, you have to be humble. But back to my story. In the past, I would have left the relationship. The hurt was that bad. In the past, I would have walked away. But I didn't do that this time. And I could say it's because I'm older or because I've learned from my mistakes. But to be honest, I think the reason why it's different now, I know the reason why it's different now is because my relationship with God is different. And He didn't call me to walk away from tough situations. He called me to love. He called me to be faithful. He called me to walk through it. And to be a vessel of victory, you have to have a relationship with God. And not an on the surface relationship where you go to church and maybe read your Bible, you're in a group text, a Bible group text, and you read every day and you put your scriptures in. But it means going deeper. Flushing out the things inside of you that don't fall in line with who God has called you to be. It means putting away some of the things that you love, that you did love to give God more time. It means when wounds are open and you're hurting, you turn to God and you ask Him, where do I go from here? And then you listen. And I think so many times we go to God and we say, where do I go from here? But then we don't stop to listen. We just automatically start putting our 2 cents of where we think we should go. Oh, well, maybe I should just pack my bag and leave. And God's like, that's definitely not the answer I would have given you. If you would have just stopped and listened. It's not, He doesn't talk to me in an audible voice, but He puts things in my spirit. Like I hear things in my head and I'm like, okay, well, that's definitely not what I would have considered doing. So I know it's not coming from me. But that, to me, that's what being a vessel of victory is just stopping and listening and being prepared to do the hard stuff. Life is not easy. If it was, everybody it'd be roses and lollipops everywhere. But it's not.
The candy apple ones that they sell during October are the best.
I was thinking of pizza. But
So this reminds me of one of the toughest but most profound lessons that I ever learned so far in my walk with Christ. I've learned a lot of them. But I worked at a place for 15 years. And I had a manager that I didn't get along with. This person drove me nuts. And I'm sure I drove them nuts.
Right.
I'm in sales, so, I'm a high performer. And so I was right.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. I was right. And we were so upset with each other. We did everything but throw hands. But, this person drove me nuts. So, anyway. I remember I called Pastor, which happened to be my boss at the same time. He was everyone's boss, so he wasn't my direct manager. He was the managers. And I was telling him about, why this person was getting to me. Now, I could paint the picture for you. I'm sure that everybody has had someone that just makes you want to jump out of your skin and wring their neck. Maybe it's family, maybe it's somebody you work with, whoever, whatever. But he said something. I was hot, and my voice was elevated, my blood pressure was up, and he said, "You're right. You're right in this situation. But what does that matter? Who are you winning by being right? What are you gaining by being right? What are you gaining by arguing with this person?"
Good.
And I realized being right wasn't gaining me anything. I wasn't winning that person. I wasn't winning the argument. I wasn't gaining a friend. I wasn't winning someone to the kingdom. I wasn't doing anything with being right.
That's good.
What was I going to get from it? What kind of victory was I going to get from that?
Yeah.
Just knowing I was right? Well, I mean, that sustains me for a second. I mean, I knew I was right. And then now I've lost this relationship and created this great divide with this person. So, I mean, ultimately that business shut down. So who cares whether I was right or not? The division, the scarring, the wedge, still there today. So, with all that, to, fast forward many years to now, I still struggle with being right and wanting to be right. This hasn't changed. I'm still the same person. My identity is me, so I still struggle with fleshly things, but now I don't fight so hard to be right anymore. It's like, okay, I know that what I'm saying is true. It's backed by facts, but how am I winning this argument? There is no winner when you're just always trying to be right. So anyway, that was my lesson in that. And my husband and I, we still argue. Usually it's because he doesn't think my jokes are funny. He says my jokes are rooted in truth, which is true. He is right on that. But we don't fight nearly like we did when we were younger. And I think partly it's because of that lesson that I learned.
Yeah, a lot of times people argue to be right. I mean, but after that, what do you? That's really good, Holly. What do you get from that? Do you want a cookie or a pat on the back? A lot of times, fighting to the death and the bone to be right just causes hurt, pain, and misery. There's no unification. There's no coming together. Hard conversations or intense moments of fellowship. There should be a goal from those conversations. We're working through something to get better and to get through something, not to feel inferior. I'm right, you're wrong. I think whenever we have those conversations and those things that happen, we got to have a goal, an outcome in mind.
Sometimes we don't articulate what we're really feeling.
Yeah.
Well, you make me mad.
Yeah.
Well, okay, let's really talk about that. So when you say that I make you mad, can you be more clear?
Yeah.
What
Exactly
action
how
am
are
I
you feeling?
taking?
What is it that
mad?
I do that is making you mad?
No.
What specifically?
Well, no, you're on the right track with what I'm thinking, but mad, what does that look like? It looks like frustrated. You feel isolated. Do you feel rejected? Do you feel like you're not heard? There's so many different factors into the word mad. So let's really explore how are you actually feeling beyond mad? And then now, if I find out, okay, you're feeling isolated and rejected, and now I know you're feeling that way.
Get to the root.
Let's find out what's causing you to feel. What do you do when you feel isolated and rejected?
Isolate.
You shut down.
I shut down.
Okay, you shut down. And when you feel isolated, like somebody is not including you, and you feel rejected. So, Erin, you said you shut down.
Yeah, especially so isolated. If I feel like somebody's attacking me, like is coming at me, I do the same. I'm like, I just shut down. I just kind of, I pull back. And I guess it's my form of keeping myself from getting hurt, because if I pull back and I don't engage, you can't say anything else to me that's going to hurt me worse than you already have.
So how do you respond? So when you feel isolated and you feel rejected, you then isolate yourself, and you don't have anybody. So your response to that is to not do anything, not engage in anything.
Correct.
How do you respond when you feel isolated and rejected?
I do two things. It depends what side of the bed I wake up on. I either overcompensate and I want to hear you love me. Tell me you love me still. Ha ha ha, joking, J-O-K-E, when it's really truth. Or I back away and I get away from you.
Okay. So your response is to disengage and maybe not have anything to do with that person, or overcompensate. Which then makes me feel like you're disengaged, or you're insecure, or like, oh, Aaron doesn't want anything to do with me. So how do I respond?
By doing the same thing.
Frustrated.
But now I'm frustrated and I'm feeling rejected. So now I'm responding in this way. So it continues to be a loop constantly. So instead of continuing to go through this loop, which is toxic and destructive, let's have a real conversation. What do I know is true? What is the fact? Are you really rejected?
No.
Am I really wanting to isolate you?
No.
Okay, so now let's talk about how we can get through that. Because what I know is true is that I know I'm not really rejected. I know I'm loved.
Right.
I know I'm not really isolated. People do want to include me. So now I can talk about what the root cause is that's causing those things, and get through that. And I think that the brass tacks of it is, when I have conversations with my family or my adult children, sometimes we don't talk about the real feeling. We just talk about being mad.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of, okay, how do I react when I'm feeling this way? And what's causing me to feel this way? What are the real words behind it? So articulating myself has been helpful.
I struggle in that area, because there's a lot of times where I just take what I'm feeling and just kind of and just push it down. You know, I put everything else first, and I put everybody else first. And I think as a mom, that is our role sometimes. That's where moms start to feel isolated and that kind of thing, is because we have kids and we have husbands and we have jobs, and everything comes before us. And that's why our health is sometimes a little bit worse, why divorce comes into play, because we feel like we're not needed or not worthy, or that other people don't think that we're needed. Well, I do all of this, why don't you see me? And we have to, and for me, when Daniel will say, well, what's going on? I'll have to stop and think, okay, what's at the root of this? Where did this start? Because normally it's not something that started right that moment. It's something that's been festering for a couple hours or a couple days or a couple months, because I've just put it on the back burner. I'll deal with that later, until we're at the point where there's no dealing with it later, because it's a monster at this point. It's looming over our relationship and causing every day in and day out, for it to be a struggle just to be able to communicate, to be able to connect, because we have this thing that I've allowed to fester. And we talked about that before. An open wound, if you clean it and you bandage it and you do what you're supposed to, yes, it will probably leave a scar. But it's when you leave it open and you don't do anything to it, and then stuff gets in there, and then it becomes an infection that affects the whole body instead of just a scar that you can look down and go, okay, yeah, I remember that time, but I'm past that, and now I have a testimony from that. It's become something that could possibly take you out. And so I have to stop. And there are times when I'm like, you're going to have to give me a minute so that I can put my words into order. Because if I respond to you right now, I'm going to respond in anger. And those words are going to come out, and I'm going to end up hurting you and hurting myself because I'm not coming at it at the right angle. And I need to figure out what's completely causing this. But I have, this week especially, he would say, what's going on? And I'm like, nothing. And then I stopped and I said, there is something, but it's not anything that you can do to fix it. You're not able to go in and fix this situation. You're not able to go in and make it better. I said, it's something I've done to myself. I have to own up and be the bigger person and apologize and do what I need to do. And then back away and know that the situation is probably, just because I apologize, that situation is not going to be fixed immediately. There's still effort that has to be put in. There's still work I have to do. Because we always want to just apologize and everything be, okay, it's all hunky-dory, everything's back to normal. But that's not the way it goes, because there are a lot of times where the apology is great, but there are wounds, and there's wounds there that are going to take time to heal, and we have to be willing to put the Neosporin on and to bandage it and to clean it every day and to be the light that we're supposed to be. Yeah. When we were a tornado at one point.
Yeah.
So did you end up telling him about what was bothering you?
I did. I mean, we went into, this is how I'm feeling. This is, what happened. This is what happened afterwards. This is where I think I'm at. This is what I think my next step needs to be. But unfortunately, there's not anything you can do about it, because I have to. It has to be. It's my journey. And even though we're married, this side of it, yes, I can tell you what I'm going through, and I can tell you what I'm doing, but it's something that I have to fix, and there's not anything you can do about it.
My husband told me the other day, and I guess since we're being vulnerable, there was something he was just kind of battling through, and I just kind of kept giving him the answers on what to do and how to overcome and all that. And he just kind of blew me away with his response. He said, I love you. And he said, sometimes I just need you to listen to me and not tell me what to do. Not that your advice isn't great, but he said, there are some things I just have to battle through myself. And I've just got to overcome that thing. And I was like, wow, I never thought, sometimes it's up to that person. They've just got to take the steps.
I think as spouses, we want to fix whatever's hurting the one we love.
Ray and I struggled through this. We have very different worlds.
Yeah. You do. I never thought of that.
Yeah,
Y'all do.
We have completely different worlds. He works, in an industry where he is, he deals with a lot of people one-on-one. He works with his hands. He's fixing things. He's outdoors, indoors. I'm in a corporate world, in an office. And so he is just meek and mild, and I'm mouthy and, opinionated.
Oh, not you.
We're just,
I love you.
We're just so completely opposite, and our worlds are so completely different. So I find, in ministry for me looks a lot different.
It does.
I'm very out there with people and praying and ministering and working within the gifts of the Spirit, and and thank the Lord that I'm a vessel that the Lord is using that way, and I'm so grateful and thankful. The Lord uses Ray a little bit differently. He's quiet. He's more of the guy's guy, and he really relates to the older generation because he and I do have a lot of years between us, and so just our worlds are different. So anyway, I find myself not telling him things. I find myself not wanting to talk to him because he wouldn't have any idea what in the world I'm talking about. So I just don't tell him anything. And then I'll have something come up, like I'll be like, oh, well, we have to be at such and such place at 2:00. You never told me that. You make plans and do things without telling me all the time. And I'm like,
this is true.
Just get dressed and show up. I'm doing all the work for you. All you have to do is get dressed and show up. And what I'm doing is I am excluding him from the relationship and the decisions. Yeah. And just because I think, or if I'm having something tough going on, sometimes I find that he wants to fix the problem, or he adopts the emotion I want to have, the anger or the frustration. He'll take that on. And then I'm having to fight him on why he shouldn't be frustrated over my situation. And I'm like, I don't have any time for that. I don't want to do that. And then I feel like a turd because now I've got this attitude like I don't have time for that. It's completely unfair. I'm excluding him from my life. Yeah. And that's not what I want to do.
No.
He and I have been together 20 years. He's my husband. I love him. He's my best friend. I want to tell him about things, even when he doesn't understand what an Excel spreadsheet does.
Well, and
I don't want to leave him out of my life.
Right. And Holly, our relationship, how many times could you have put me in that same criteria, the shoes? She just doesn't understand. But do you know how I got to a place of understanding? You told me a bunch of stuff I didn't understand, and you kept doing it.
Yeah.
And you explained how you thought on it, and that expanded my thought processes. And now people come to me and ask me, what do you think about that? Because they're asking my opinion because they don't understand. So to get from a place of not understanding to understanding, I've got to hear some different thought processes. Yeah. And if you withhold that from people, and as a vessel of God, you are called to do that, by the way, if you didn't know.
Yes.
Then how is he ever going to think it just a little bit higher?
Yeah. Well, and he just thinks differently. Not that he thinks, not as high, but he thinks differently about things. And I don't want to stress him out. I don't want to worry him. I don't want him to feel like I'm piling things on, because the reality is I take on a lot of things. There's a lot of things that go along with all the things that I'm doing, and I don't want him to feel like I don't want to bog him down with it. And it's enough that I get bogged down sometimes. I don't want to, but we're supposed to bear each other's burdens. That's what we're called to do. So this is the battle that I'm in right now, and I know the answer is to push past it and to include him so that he can walk with me.
Yeah. My husband a lot does that to his mother. He takes on a lot, and he doesn't include her on certain things because he wants to protect her, and he doesn't want her to feel that heavy and those anxieties. And I told him the other day, I said, honey, you are meant to be your mother's son, not her God. Mm. His job is to protect us and position us, to expose us to things and to help us through things so we get stronger. And if we withhold all of that weight and all of those burdens and all of those things from people, even though it's out of love, there's no growth in that. Yeah. There's no experience in that. And experience, it's not always fun and sunshine and rainbows if y'all haven't caught that just yet.
I've been living in a tulip world. Tulips and rainbows and... No.
I have not, but I tell you what.
Well, I live in a world where I'm a turd sometimes.
No, you're not. You're just the Terminator.
I do. Sometimes I feel like I do. But, really, all jokes aside, I, 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 I want there to be a stronger connection between him and I, because what I don't want to happen is our last child to leave and us to retire and us not to know each other.
Right.
Because our identities are so,
Engrossed in.
associated with work, with children, with ministry, with all of these things we do, that we don't know each other any longer because we've grown in different directions. And so I think it's one of the things that we've been doing, which has been helpful, is we go to bed at the same time. Now, I go to bed like a grandma at 8:30, and because I get up so early in the morning, and he doesn't like to go to bed that early. So he'll go and lay with me until I fall asleep, and then he'll get back up, which I appreciate so much.
That's time spent. That's one-on-one time.
Yeah. And then,
Go him. I love that.
isn't that so sweet?
That is precious.
We watch, sometimes we'll watch something that the other person isn't really into watching, just
But
to give that, so we try to do these little things that
it's the
bring
little
us
things that
closer
are the
together.
big things. I
Yeah.
love
Yes.
that. That's so sweet.
And so for a few years, Daniel was working at a place where he worked so many hours. He was never home, like never home. And when he did come home, he was on the phone with work, and then he was back out. And it was just there was a couple of years where it felt like I was a single mom, and he wasn't involved in the church because he didn't have time. He worked until 7:00 on Wednesdays, and he wasn't supposed to work on Sundays, but they would call him in and he'd go in, and so there was a time where I was a single mom. I was going to church by myself, taking the kids, just doing all those things. And then he switched jobs and started making church a priority. Then he started his ministry this past year, and his spiritual walk has changed. And then
Amazingly,
yeah. And there are times when I haven't recognized it, and other people would say something, and I'd be like, "Oh, yeah, you're right. He does act different, and he is doing different things, and he is putting himself out there." And because we, as the wives, don't always, as the spouse, as the whatever. No, it doesn't even just have to be a wife. You could be a husband who's listening, and it's the same thing. We don't always recognize the changes being made because we're seeing the day in and day out, and other people are seeing the big picture. And so it takes sometimes somebody else pointing something out for you to go, you're like, "Oh, you're right. That is different than the way it was 6 months ago." But I remember in one of the other podcast episodes, Sister, you said you can't get upset with Ray because of his spiritual walk because it's different than yours. And Daniel's is different than mine. But there was a time where he would speak about all the time I spent at church. Well, why can't we do stuff as a family? Oh, it's because you're always at church. And I was like, well, the church is what's held me together for the last 2 years. Yeah. When there wasn't anybody here at the house, when you were working so much, it was the church that kept me grounded, that kept me going. They gave me something to look forward to. And so my spiritual walk is different than his spiritual walk. And my commitments are sometimes different than his commitments. And I've pushed for him to be involved in some of the stuff I'm involved in, just because I'm like, I want you involved in the same things I'm involved in. I go to Not Alone every time there's a Not Alone meeting, and I put a message out on Band every Saturday when there's a Not Alone meeting. Sometimes I do it on my own. Most of the time he's like, "Have you put the message out yet?" Yes, dear. I will get the message out. I promise. I will post. I won't make you post about it all alone. And so I've been involved with his ministry. I'm trying to get him a little more involved in some of the stuff I do. I know we have sisterhood, so it's just for girls, so that'd be really hard for him to be involved in. But he's starting the security ministry, and the security ministry and the hospitality ministry, which I'm over, are going to have to work hand in hand. It's going to have to be security and hospitality have to be not one group, but they got to be a sisterhood, I guess you could say. They have to work hand in hand. So something I'm involved in and something he's involved in will have to have a lot of communication. And so I know that God is moving us into things where we are ministering together or ministering cohesively. It's just getting to that point or to that part. It's been a long time coming. We'll be married 10 years in November.
Congratulations.
Thanks. And so it's taken us 10 years to get here.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to the next 10 years because we're moving into the same boat as you and Ray. I've got another one leaving the nest this year. I've got one who will be leaving the nest next year. And then we've got a little bit of time before the girls are out. But, every time one leaves, it's like, okay, well, we're just that much closer to it just being us. And I understand. I understand what you're saying about wanting to make sure that once everybody is out of the house, I still know who he is, and not just as a dad, but as my husband.
Yeah.
I know he's a hard worker. I know he has some things that he loves to do, and he likes to fill his time with those things. But I want to know that when everything else falls away, I still know his character.
Yeah.
So
I have a trip to Dallas soon for work, and we're going to be apart for a long period of time. So, what's on my mind right now is, how are we going to spend some time together before then?
right.
Well, there is none. So, we just have to be creative about how we nurture and grow the relationship. I have to remember to be a learner and not a knower.
Right.
That I don't always have to be right.
Yeah.
And that he does get to know about things even if he doesn't understand exactly where I'm coming from.
Right.
Because, we talked about this in Sunday school today. He has made the comment before, what is it exactly that you do all day? Because I'm in an office. And
I got in trouble in Sunday school this morning by my husband.
He said the same thing. But like, what exactly do you do? Because he has no clue what, professionally what it is that I do, really.
Right.
And, but I've told him, I'm like, listen, I am not climbing on a roof to fix something, and I would not ask you to step into my office to do anything. So
Right.
we'll keep it as it is, but I still want him to be a part of my
Right.
world.
Well, my husband will ask me every afternoon, and he's like, so what'd you do? And I was like, I can make up a story. And I can But to be honest, I did the same thing you asked me what I did yesterday. Because I have a routine, and this is what I do. This is step by step how my day goes. I go in at 8, I turn my computer on, I check for orders. If there are any new orders that have come in that need to go out that day, I put them in the system. I get all of our drivers' routes set. I give them orders, so when they come in at 9, I can be like, okay, Nathan, you're going here. Bradley, you're going there. Fish, you're going here. Yes, we have a guy named Fish. His last name is Fish, so so we call him Fish.
I think we can say that.
We call him Fish. I didn't give a first name.
Oh.
So I didn't give his first name, but so we call him Fish, and so that's the start of my day. That gets me till like 9:30, and then I said, and then I go into this software, and we have a company that calls about CPAP supplies, and I go into that, and I have to check. I said, we normally have starting at 50 orders that come in a day. I said, and they go upwards from there. And I have to check each one of them to make sure that the insurance is still active. And he said, well, how long does it take you to do that? I said, about 2 minutes
I love the
patient.
fact that he's so interested in what
Oh.
you're doing.
Well, you're giving him too much credit. Because he's like, well, that's what? 2 hours? So that puts you to 11:30. So what do you do with the other ones? You just sit at your desk? I was like, I'm going to hurt you. I was like, that's just one thing that I do. I said, then I have sales orders that I have to go through and projects that people give me. And then I'm constantly having chats and emails that are sent that I have to respond to. I said, so yeah, what should only take 2 hours sometimes, well, if there's more than 50, or even if there's 50, sometimes it takes 4 hours because I get stopped in the middle about 15 times to do something else. And I was like, it's brain. I use my brain all day long. And I know, I'm not saying he doesn't. He works on tractors.
But this morning you did kind of
I
say
did
he
kinda
doesn't.
say. I said he
I
works
sure
on
missed
tractors.
it.
Oh yeah, he was.
She
he
said, yeah, but I have to use my
I
brain.
said I have to use my brain all day long. I didn't mean it that he doesn't use his brain. I just
can
mean
take a
it. I just mean when you are doing something that's kind of repetitive. You know, he goes in and he has to take a motor off. Well, once you've done it 15 times, you don't really have to use your brain to take it off anymore. You know which nuts and bolts to go in there. I know he has to use his brain because there are times when it was like, well, it took us a couple hours to figure out what was going on and we had to test this and we had to test that. And so you have to use your brain to know, okay, well, where do I need to go from here? I'm not saying he doesn't use his brain. He has a brain. It's just a different work.
It's a different kind of brain.
It's a different work experience. I'm sitting at a computer, staring at a computer screen for 9 hours out of a day, and he's staring at 14 different tractors, trying to figure out what's going on with them
Ray
tractors.
comes home and I can't wait to hear about his day.
See, and that's the thing. It's like mine's boring. And
His
it really is boring because
his
it's
is
the
great.
same thing every single day. So when he asked me, what'd you do today? I really wish I had a fun story to tell you. But it was just the same thing.
Ray's got fun
and then he's like,
stories.
yeah, and then he's like, well, what did you do today? Well, I was working on this tractor and I was pretty much standing on my head because what part I had to get was way down in there. And so he said, so I kind of have a headache because I realized I was standing on my head and all the blood was running to my head all day long. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm a visual person. I'm imagining him standing on a tractor, like with his feet hanging out the top and him on his head. That's what I'm thinking. And so, he comes home like you said, like Ray does, with all kinds of fun stories because they do something different every day.
Well, Ray's is more like drama. I'm not even kidding. Like, okay, picture this.
Cicely,
Yeah.
19.
Picture this. So he goes and he tells me about all of these different guys he works with. They all have these different characters.
Oh gosh.
And it is like baby mama drama.
Stop.
Seriously, it is hilarious. One of the guy talks about taking I'm not even going to go there. But anyway, he talks about his married life and the things he has to do to keep that going.
Oh my
And
lord!
then, I'm not even kidding, then he goes on to talk about another guy and how he has, he makes this weird noise, and it's kind of like a quacking noise.
Oh, it's his version of Sister Megan.
Yeah, okay, but he can't help it. So,
I can.
so he's working in not that great of a neighborhood this one time, and somebody fired a gun, and it scared the guy, so he started like quacking. It scared him, I guess, and he just makes this noise, and so he said that he just started like uncontrollably quacking his way into an empty apartment, and so the whole time he's talking about this,
Blessing.
I'm just picturing this guy going like quacking all over the place. And then he talks about how
Hope it wasn't duck season.
I know. Then he talks about how one guy is telling everybody what to do, and he's not the boss, and another guy who's talking. I mean, it is. I'm telling you, when I say baby mama drama, it is hilarious. So as soon as he comes home from work, I'm like, okay, what happened today? Because I don't have that kind of. I mean, we have a tiny bit of drama sometimes, but for the most part, we really don't have any because I work virtually. And but yeah, he has the best stories ever. And it's so funny because I mean, he's 57 years old, coming and very quiet, timid, chill, and he comes home with these hilarious stories.
Gosh.
I'm gonna have to go to Sister Holly's house so I can. Let me know when Ray's coming home.
I'm just cooking dinner, and it's like better than watching TV because I'm just cooking dinner, listening to his day, and he's like, "So how was your day?" And I'm like, "Well, I wrote a situational workshop for my team." It's like
a situation way.
yeah, basically, he's like, "Okay,
Well,
great job.
That sounds fun.
Great job, good job." Yeah, it was about as fun as watching grass grow.
I love
it
watching
really,
you.
Actually, it is fun. I really
I've
do
sat
enjoy
there
it.
and watched you, and
I
I just like
geeking
listening
out on
to
stuff.
you.
I'm like, we have this site, this thing called Udemy, and you can go, not Udemy.
I was about to say Udemy.
Udemy, Udemy. And so it is, like we have licenses to go in, and we can take classes on anything. Anything. Like there's thousands of different classes, and some of them are micro learning, some of them are long, several hours that you can, but so it's really cool. So we can go in there and learn all kinds of different stuff. I've also enrolled in this place called Sophia Learning, which you can take college classes and get credits and be able to transfer them over, and they're fully transferable. So anyway, so there's a lot of opportunities to be able to learn, and so we're a real learning. The company that I work for is a real learning company, and they really support growth and personal growth and things like that. So I talk about that, and Ray literally turns into a zombie. So I love geeking out on stuff like that. It's like buying office supplies. That's what I want for my birthday. It's office supplies. You buy me a pack of highlighters, and I'm like skipping a Maloo. So there's that.
You and Sister Sarah. That's the
Yes.
thing that she always wants for her, like her special gifts and stuff is office supplies.
When school starts and all the school supplies go on sale, it's like Christmas to me.
There's chili cooking in there.
And he's got a cheesecake he's about to pull out of the
That's
oven.
what I'm interested.
Or put
Well,
in the
it's got.
oven.
I think he's pulling it out probably.
I just saw him put it in. It must not be done.
Yeah. I'll have to put it in the freezer.
We're talking about Aaron's husband, by the way.
He is the cheesecake master.
Mastercraft. Wait, that's a
Yeah.
tire.
That's your husband.
You're so weird. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah, my husband, he makes lots of cheesecakes.
So I think it's interesting that we started off talking about vessels of victory, but we really started focusing on our marriages and keeping healthy marriages. I think that, and this is Hollyology, but I think that the Lord made us one unit because many times we are one vessel. And then we go and we do the Lord's work in different ways. It's neat how God works things out.
Yeah, that's really neat. And nothing's more important than the other. I mean, from the person holding the mic that day, giving the word of God, to the person who's just greeting someone and giving them that smile. I mean, all different dynamics of the church and ministries have impacted my life. They've all blessed my life. From the person who just kept up with my story and that hard trial I was going through and just made the phone call, "How are you doing?" or checked on me, to the person delivering the word that changed my whole world. It's all so important. It's just all such an important work. And so whereas your husband does something for the Lord that looks a lot differently than you, And it might even be just a simpler version in a different way.
So I have a question. So there's a couple in our church who are seasoned saints. They have been in church many, many years. Well, she has been in church many, many years, and then he hadn't. And so, and you guys know the couple. But anyway, they pray. They read the word and they pray together every single night.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Ray and I have tried that before. It's so utterly awkward. And I don't know if you guys have ever done this before, but it's so weird. It's like, and I pray every day. I pray at church. I could pray in tongues. I can pray loudly. I can pray quietly. I love to pray. I love to converse with the Lord. But it's like when we start praying together, or not necessarily reading the word together, but praying together, it becomes awkward. So awkward. Have you ever
Really?
done this?
Um,
And maybe it's the enemy trying to keep us from moving in that direction together. But I've always thought it was so beautiful that they did that. But for some reason, it just makes me feel like I'm standing in front of a crowd, no clothes on or something.
this might sound terrible, but I actually prefer to read my Bible alone in complete quietness early in the morning before the house is woke up. And that's just a me thing.
Yeah, I do the same thing. But I'm talking about to grow spiritually together in addition to that.
Me and Ivy have started praying over each other. We don't necessarily pray at the same time, so I don't think I'm answering your question, but that's just what we've started doing. Like, you know, like one morning I just felt heavy, had already prayed and read. He got up and he just come and put his arms around me and just said a prayer. And there's been times I've done that to him, and at first I'm like, "Argh," and then I love it and I just melt. But I don't think we've ever really tried to just both vocally pray at the same time. I don't think so.
About you?
No, and it's one of those I don't know if reading the Bible itself would be, I mean, I'm not saying, I know it's the Word of God and that's amazing and all that stuff. I almost wonder if it wouldn't be best to try to start with like a devotional thing instead
that's a good idea.
instead of trying to read the Word and then, you know, because there are times when we have Bible study and we'll read a set of scriptures and we're like, okay, does anybody have anything out of that? And you have 15 people and we're like, nope. There wasn't anything profound that God gave me about that set of scriptures or whatever. And so I wonder if maybe a devotional, that's something that you could read a scripture, read the devotional and what they say about that scripture, and then discuss, you know, okay, well, what did you think about that devotional? Did you get the same thing, or that kind of thing? And I know that they make them for like married couples and things that would talk about, you know, stuff that couples go through.
Mm-hmm.
That maybe that would, and it's something that I think as married couples we need.
Yeah.
Is to have that time, and we don't. I don't see a whole lot of married couples having that just quiet, inspirational time or word time, Bible time, God time together. We do a lot of it separate, but if we want to grow together, the way we grow together is to grow closer to God, and then God brings us closer to each other.
Right.
So,
Something I have started doing whenever I get like a revelation or a understanding about something after reading the word, I include him in on it. I'll share it with him. And I've noticed he's piqued interest and he'll start asking questions. And so we connect on that.
yeah.
But that's a good idea for our wedding. His mother bought us a devotional for the whole year as a newly wedded couple. So sounds like I need to crack that back out, start doing that. Because each day it'll have a devotional, a tidbit. And that sounds really, and it's funny because you walk in our house, and if you look over to the left at this shelf with all these books and decorations, it sits there as a decoration, but it's not actually being used. So
Well, have you ever done the Love Dare? Have you ever tried the Love Dare?
I love that movie.
so
I
good.
have that book.
I've just watched the movie. What's it called? Fireproof?
Fireproof.
Yeah. But I have that book somewhere around here, and it's something that we need to do. Like
That sounds amazing. I
'cause it
love
is-
that.
Well, it's the thing is it's not made to be done as a couple thing. It's made to be done as an individual thing, and because it gives you like things to do for your spouse, and that kind of thing. But I really want to. I think I seriously want to look into some kind of, even if it's like a workbook where we both have a workbook and we go through it and put our thoughts down, and then it gives us a.
Holly's over there Amazoning it
Stop.
right now as we
Hey,
speak.
stop it. Stop.
I know
telling
what
us
she's
I'm
doing,
It
y'all.
gives us-
She's
it would-
ordering it right now. I
She
promise
is.
you that's
I
what
saw her-
she's
I saw her
doing.
grab her
She
phone.
grabbed it in her head. She's like, I got an idea.
Yeah, I mean, because then you could, then the words and stuff that you put down, you could actually, you could share them, because then you're sharing your thoughts and your feelings. Because for me, it's easier for me to share my thoughts and feelings in the written form sometimes than it is to speak it out. And so maybe that would be something to do. When Sister Holly finds one, she'll have to let me know so that I can.
I need one too.
They actually have Love Dare for parents also.
Ooh.
Okay.
Lord help
I
us with these
think
kids.
I may need that one.
They have, there's all kinds of stuff on here.
She's geeking out, y'all.
She
On
is kind of,
Amazon.
she's geeking out on Amazon.
Bless her. I love her.
Oh,
Okay.
Nike.
Well, we are getting towards the end of this episode. I'm gonna go back to the very beginning of the episode and tell you guys again. Don't forget, October is Pastor Appreciation Month. Make sure that you do something special for your pastor and let them know how much they are loved. We started off this episode thinking it was going to be Vessels of Victory, and it ended up really just kind of being talking about what we need to do in our relationships to make our relationships stronger, and how to maybe speak to our spouses a little different, and realize that we're one together, but we are two different people doing two different things, and that we need to speak to that, and ask, hey, how was your day? What's going on with you? What do you need? Is there something you need from me that I'm not giving you? And then be looking for the changes that come as they grow closer to us and they grow closer to God. So,
Well, just to take it a step further, not just asking how their day went, but being willing to share your own.
right, even if it's boring and it's the same thing every single day, try to find something in that day that's different, that's kind of something cool. And if not, do what I do with my husband. I did the same thing today that I did yesterday. It's pretty much all the same. It had nothing changed, but I will let you know if it does. And Sister Holly is over here. She's placed her order for the Love Dare book. It'll be here sometime this week. So we love you guys. Y'all have a great week. Be blessed.
Kick it, don't quit it.
Bye.